Hello everyone, welcome to Moe'S Tool Talk, and today I'm going to be talking about the morality and the positive messages that I get from my favorite band in the world. And specifically my favorite album, which will come up eventually. Now, I should be wearing my Tool shirts, but it's because it's been so warm out that I've been kind of changing shirts a little often. We've had I need to do a wash. That's what I'm trying to say. But we've been having a heat wave. Like it's been like 33. Like today, it went up to 33 degrees Celsius. It felt like 35 degrees Celsius. And today is still as I'm recording this, it's 32 degrees Celsius now. Luckily, inside the apartment here, because we're in the basement and I don't get a lot of the sun and I keep the blinds closed so it doesn't warm up the place. It's a much cooler in here. Still kind of warm, but I love the heat. But for you guys in the States to use this Imperial, it was 91 degrees Fahrenheit today. It felt like 95 degrees. So, just to get into it, this is not a Moe'S CD Culture Show and Tell, so I'm not here to really present the CDs because I would put a lot more into it. I am going to be showing you the main albums that have the influences, of course. And yeah, we'll get into it. So since 1992, when there was only this album, it became instantly my favorite band. Like the first two songs that I heard was Hush and Part of Me. I heard Part of Me on a skateboard video supplied by my best friend Little Mo, which I am going to go and try to see tomorrow town if the weather permits, because it's going to be a scorcher tomorrow too, but maybe just a tiny bit less warm. But anyway, when this album first came out, the message that it gave to me, okay, especially Hush. Now, if you see the video and you hear and you listen to the lyrics, it is a jab at censorship. And I was never a big fan of censorship. I thought that they were taking it a little, like people were taking censorship a little too far. And I find people get too easily offended. Even more so nowadays. Wow, we're way too offended for our own good. It's really difficult to offend me. I hardly ever get offended. I told you about one of my things that mildly offends me. And I want to reiterate that even though I have the right to be offended, I don't have the right to get offended. There's a distinction in that. But it's not until I really heard the full album and when I heard Opiate for the first time, and I didn't take it the wrong way. It wasn't an attack against God. No, it's a song about those damn evangelists and the masses that take religion a little too far. It was a jab at the evangelists. I understood that, but I remember people, who when I tried to talk about it, they would get offended, and then I would just point to Hush and saying, "Look, I can say what I want to, even if I'm not serious. Why are you getting so offended?" So this album to me was the beginning of a beautiful, long, love affair, me and Tool. But I'm not going to dwell too long on this. It's just that's how it started, and what I loved about the Opiate is the way and I never heard Maynard ever get to that range again, like the way he yells in Opiate. It just blows my mind. The emotion, the force that came out of that it was so moving and goosebumps. You get chills listening to that, especially in the beginning. I loved it. And then the next year in '93, when Undertow came out, and I heard Intolerance for the first time. That started really getting into my heart about those who lie, cheat, and steal. Specifically, uh, everything in authority, like the government, the church, the anything that's there to take what's yours, to grab, to greediness. I'm not a fan of greedy people or greedy organizations. And Intolerance was the first instance where you learn you don't lie, cheat, and steal. Almost anything else is acceptable, but please don't lie, cheat, and steal. Well, you don't harm other people, and you live and let live. Let people be. The whole idea of coveting things that other people have and wanting it for yourselves, that was just bad, just negative. Then, you have a song like Prison Sex. And again, people misunderstood. Like, I don't know what it was about Maynard's lyrics and me, but I always had an idea of what he was really trying to say. I didn't see it as what it sounds like. It's just, of course, and he elaborated later on that it is a song about the cycle of violence, and that you could and should break that cycle. That cycle is not a healthy thing. Then you get Sober, and that is basically a song about waking up to reality. It's not about stopping drinking necessarily, but it's about opening your eyes to what's the truth, and like sober up and see the world for what it is, and not for what you want it to be or what you think it is. But the really I could go on with the rest of these lists, because you got Crawl Away and then Swamp Song. And Swamp Song is mainly like, don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong, because if you do, you're just going to sink into it and vanish away, basically. But my favorite song on here is 4 Degrees. And what 4 Degrees, it's not just about the musicality of it, because it really is, but it's the meaning behind it. It's about finding the treasure that's inside you, to bring it out and bring it out into the world. The meaning for me is to take that goodness that's in you and let it out. Don't keep it buried inside you, because that's where it just festers and gets hidden in the shadows. You have to bring it out into the world. So yeah, this is where I start realizing how, now when I get to the next album, I'll elaborate on something about that. You'll see what I mean. Because now you get Anima, and with Anima, it starts with Stinkfist, and Stinkfist is not what you think it is. It's about, again, it's almost like 4 Degrees. It's about not dawdling into the mundane and being sluggish in your life. It's about searching for meaning in things, rather than just accepting it for what it is. You have to find the meaning in your life to be a whole person, rather than just a part of a person. You don't want to be a halfway part of it. And then you get songs like 46 and 2, and then H. There's Eulogy. Like, at this point, and what I was going to try to say in the other album, is that I felt for some reason when after this album came out, it was like Maynard was reading my mind. I was like, I kept on thinking, well, how are you getting in there and talking about, elaborating about, expressing the things I've been thinking about? I honestly felt like there was some way he was reading my mind, taking everything that was good and everything that I felt and thought of, and putting the lyric and putting it into this beautiful music that just, for me, Tool is uplifting. And I hope I don't offend people by this, but this is my religion. This is my religion. Which is why I started my book of Tool, which you can go back in my videos to check that out. I will leave a link to that video right up here in this corner. Right up here. So please go and check that out, because there's beautiful artwork in there you should see. And plus I did something else with you. Watch that whole video. If you're a Tool fan like I am, you'll love it. But yeah, I can't gush enough about this album. And of course you get to the title track of Anima, where it's like all that fakeness. And they're not talking about the state of California in particular, of course. Well, they are, but they're talking about the fake Hollywood BS. And now I'm a little on the fence with that one, because I'm a big fan of movies. I love movies. I love being entertained by movies. But you don't want to be too believing in and what Hollywood is showing you. It's not meant to be taken as a morality. It's there mainly to entertain and to make money. But if you're taking your moralities from the movies, which there is some, and it can be uplifting. There's a lot of great movies that are not so forced and fake. But yeah, this is another great album too. Now, this is the one I really want to get to. This is my favorite album of all time, Lateralis. You see that cover from the thumbnail? Because this came out the first year, like not even like 4 months after I moved. About 4 months after I moved to Montreal, this album came out. And again, I'm like, how are you doing that, Maynard? How are you scooping up all my thoughts, all these awesomeness, and putting it into lyrics, into this beautiful form? And why do I love this album so much? There's something about the structure of it. There's something about the way it flows. There is something about how each meaning. I consider this the perfect album, where those little, like from how it starts with The Grudge, which is about forgiveness. It's a song about forgiving, and why forgiving is more important than holding on to that grudge, holding on so tightly to your hate and to your meanfulness. No, you let go. It's not necessarily to make right what they did, but to release yourself from all that wasteful hate. Because you harboring all that hate inside and that grudge inside is eating you up. They don't know what's in your brain, the person who wronged you. They're going about their happy-go-lucky life, completely oblivious to the torment that you continue to fester on your own. So it's about forgiveness. And then at the end, before it gets to the patient, they have that beautiful Eon Blue Apocalypse, which is a nice little palate cleanser to lead you into one of the most, I feel, one of the most beautiful songs they ever did. It is The Patient. And it's not talking about a patient like in a, like a, I mean, it is sort of a double entendre. I mean, a little bit about being a patient in the hospital, but it's about being patient, about learning patience, to not be to be able to wait things out and to take things as they are, and not be longing for something that's probably never going to come. You know, it's learning how to be at ease with yourself. And I know this is coming out really dark on the screen, but I don't need to show it anymore to talk about it still, because it's so etched in my mind. And then you get to the next song, which is about communicating. It's such the most morality boosting, most positive album I can think of ever. I mean, there's others, of course, but it doesn't do the same job that album does for me. No album can even come close to touching the beautiful, deep feelings of joy and beauty for the world. It just made me even enjoy the world even more. Like a song about communicating, and then you get my favorite song on the album in many ways is Parabola and Parabola, because that's about learning to be at peace with yourself, learning how to be at one with your body, and expressing yourself in a way that is just meaningful to the world, and so on and so forth. And then incidentally, okay, what I had noticed about The Grudge, not The Grudge, sorry, about Ticks and Leeches. Ticks and Leeches, again, is all about, if you're out there and you're the type of person that will suck people dry, that you're out there to try to grab everything you can from them, I hope you choke on it. I hope you feel miserable, and that your consciousness bothers you for doing the bad things that you've done. That's what that song is about to me. And when you look at it, okay, it's a song that's right in the middle of the album. Out of the entire, it's probably the hardest rocking song on this album, but yet it has the quietest moments of the whole entire album. And in that quiet moment, okay, of those people who suck you dry, you can hear in the background a tiny little whir of the saw of the blade. That same blade that you hear at the very beginning of The Grudge, where you hear well, you still hear that. You hear a little tiny bit of that sound right in the middle of Ticks and Leeches, right in the quietest part of the whole entire album. That blew my mind, that they had the insight and the beauty to do that into that song. The saying is basically saying, yes, there are ticks and leeches out there grab you, but it's a reminder to forgive, to go back to The Grudge and forgive. Oh man. And then followed right after with Lateralis and the title track. And if you understand what Lateralis stands for, it's basically their way of saying lateral thinking, thinking outside the box, thinking to the left of center. That way there, to open your mind to other possibilities, open your mind to other realms. It's so mind expanding. I just can't get over how beautiful this album is. Like, it's everything about it. Then you get the trilogy. And you can tell it's a trilogy. I don't know how well you can see that, but if you look at the back cover, those 3 tracks of disposition. Disposition. I gotta get my magnifying glass. With disposition, reflection, and triad. And with disposition, it's about patience, about being at ease with yourself. Even at your lowest moment, you can just sit there and watch the weather change. It's about soulful reflections. And speaking of reflections, reflection. Reflection. Again, with the whole analogy of the moon and everything. It's about that composure, about being composed and not letting your anger, not letting the hatred, not letting the bad feelings get to you. It's so meaningful. And then to lead that into triad, the one of the few, and probably if I think of it, it's the only instrumental they have. Did they pretty much finish it off with an instrumental? Oh, it's like, yeah. And just to have that instrumental on there, it's just, again, I'm to reuse the word over and over again on this video, mind-blowing. And then you finish it off with a weird little excerpt of, after just a couple of minutes of silence, it comes with Fayib de Owad, which means the voice of God. And the way that finishes off the album is just like a punctuation. I don't really consider that a part of the album. I consider that like a little bit of an epilogue to the album. It's just basically to state that, yeah, we live in a weird world where people, talk about weird things. I mean, that was from the talking is from an expert of the Coast to Coast, a cool radio show. And then at the very end of that, it like, it's just a perfect capper for the entire album. Like, that is why this is my favorite album of all time. That is why it just blows me away. Like, I still get chills when I listen to it. And when I first heard this the first time, and what I try to do with almost every album, is I like to lay down with no lights on, with nice pair of earphones. I actually had speakers, like a speaker and a speaker next to my ears, and I laid down and I listened to that for the first time. There were certain sounds that came out of that album that I had never heard before. The most moving and the craziest, but beautiful, the most beautiful sounds. Like at the end of Schism with the dan 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 dan, and the way Parabola and Parabola are, the way they're joined together, that it's mostly one song, but it's like a part 1 and part 2, but I consider that all one song. That they split it up in 2 parts. Again, genius. And even at the end of the title track Lateralis, at the end with those sounds, like, come on, how were you able to do the most perfect album on the planet? I don't know. I don't understand, but I'm so thankful. So, for that album, like I said, I was living in Montreal. I went to see in Montreal the tour of that album, and I will admit, when I saw the show, I had great seats too. When I saw that show, I couldn't believe that Maynard was in the back, in the shadows, like pointing towards the screen. but it sounded so amazing, and and it was just. And what blew my mind is they did not play any songs from the first two albums. They didn't play anything from Opiate, and they didn't play anything from Undertow. They only played songs from Anima and Lateralis. That like, yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed. They didn't need to. What they were presenting, the show that they presented, was just, I will never forget that show. They had these people naked, like hanging from a cord, doing all these cool acrobatics. They had when they were playing Schism, they had people walking out doing their head bobbing thing, like they do in the video. It was awesome. And at the end of the concert, right at the very end of the concert, Maynard came out and he said the most amazing thing I had. My heart burst open when he said this. He goes, I want you to take all the positive emotions that you've gathered here tonight, go out into your global community and make a positive difference. Are you kidding me? Like, you just took the words out of my heart and spread it out to the world. Like, I was so joyful. I was on cloud 9 for weeks after that concert. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. And now, I tell you, I saw Metallica 3 times. And I will tell that story someday. But I saw Metallica 3 times. That one concert of Tool beat all 3 of those concerts easily. It doesn't compare. It doesn't compare at all. So then after that, to kind of get off the subject of my favorite album of all time, because I can talk on and on and on and on about that. You come up with this. Now, I admit that this was the first time that I started getting just a little disappointed in Tool. I mean, now this album has completely grown on me way more than it did at first, but I was just a little, not a lot, a little disappointed. But still, even though at the time it was my worst album of theirs, like, I had considered it to be the worst album, because I was hoping they would go better than Lateralis, but they kind of dipped a little bit. I still love it. I know that it's one of the most personal albums for Maynard, and just that alone kind of bumped it up a little bit of a notch. But when you think about this album, and again, when you start out with the first track of Vicarious, it's a song about how we're attracted to violence, and that we should not be ashamed of that. That we are drawn to violence and hatred, and that as long as we're outside of it and not participating in it, I think it's okay to watch violence and stuff on TV or in the movies, as long as you're not emulating it, as long as you're using it as a reminder of how not to be. It's okay. It's okay that you like the violence a little bit. It's not necessarily a bad thing until you do the actions. It's not about what you say or what you think. It's all about what you do. If you do wrong, you shouldn't be. You should find the morality in life to do good, to do better, to be a better man. Again, I'll repeat that. Be a better man. That is my answer, especially now, to being at ease with myself and to be happy. It makes me happy thinking of that. And then I could go on about this album too. I mean, all about how the next song, Jambi, is all about the sickening reality of being complacent with your riches, it gets me a little tongue-tied because it still has a lot of meaning. You get to a song like The Pot, and it's about how stupid and contradictory that certain powers that be have pointed at their wagging their fingers, so you shouldn't do that, when behind your backs they're doing worse, and so on and so forth. I don't want to dwell about this album too much longer because I want to continue before this video gets too long. We're just past the 30-minute mark. And now we're going to come to the last album that came out, which again, I will consider it equal to 10,000 Days. But again, it was a... Now, I have really mixed emotions about this album. Because it's not as powerful and it's not as meaningful as some of those other albums. But it has its time and place. It has a certain feel to it that I still really appreciate and still really love. I can't compare it to the rest of the albums because it has its own distinctive quality that is just not as... Like, I still play this a lot. I actually really love putting it on before going to bed. It's probably one of my favorite albums to relax to. It is a relaxing album. It's a little bit too much like his Perfect Circle voice. He doesn't have, like, when you listen to Maynard and the power and the range and the emotional energy that Lateralus has, this doesn't even come close. But musically, sonically, it's still, and it has probably, thanks to that drum cam for Pneuma, it has some of the best. It really does have some of the best, greatest drumming of Tool's history. I love the drumming in it, and I have to give props to Justin Chancellor because his bass playing is also, like, awesome. It's just some of the greatest, like, what Justin brought to this band is phenomenal, and he is such a beautiful an addition to this band to replace Paul D'Amour like that. Yeah. Like I cannot praise Justin enough. He is an amazing and probably one of my favorite bassists also on the world, right up along with Geddy Lee. I love Geddy Lee's bass playing. I know I'm leaving out so many other ones, but for some reason I really love Geddy Lee bass playing, and I love Justin Chandler's bass playing. It's amazing. I'm not going to go too much into the track list, but again, if you really listen to these lyrics, they are deeper than I give it credit for. I think what I was disappointed with it, it's not really that it's a disappointment, is I wasn't expecting to find the lyrics inside. It's like, you never put your lyrics into any other albums, but now after all these years, you decide to put lyrics. It made it less meaningful. I at first it was frustrating trying to get the lyrics to those earlier albums, but that just made me appreciate the lyrics more. How many times active listening, rewind, listen, just to try to pick up on lyrics, the misunderstood lyrics that I really needed to know. What are you saying there? I need to know. And then eventually online you actually find what the true lyrics were, and then it's like, okay, I get it. Awesome. And then you instantly forget what you thought it was before. As soon as you hear the new lyrics of what, like the correct lyrics of what it is, it just sets everything in place. And so when I say that this is my favorite band, that is basically in a nutshell why this is my favorite band. I could talk forever about this band, and I will probably do another Tool talk eventually, not right away, probably in about another month or so. I don't want to exhaust, I don't think I can, but I don't want to exhaust the topic of Tool because I want to talk more about Tool. I want to praise this band for the being the most meaningful, the most thought-provoking, the most intelligent band that, in my humble opinion, in the world. And if you're not a Tool fan because you are hearing it the wrong way, if you're not getting the positive messages the way that I am, I feel sorry for you. I really do, because this band made me a better person. It made me a human being. It's basically this is a warm hug that tells me you are all right. You are among friends. You are among people who care for you. That's what this band did for me. And I will always praise this band no matter what. Now, I'm going to conclude this episode. I don't want it to get too long. And so, again, to all of you out there, all my new subscribers and all my new my viewers, thank you. You're making this so much more meaningful to me. I love you all. And please be safe. Take care. Have a great day, evening, night, wherever you may be. And I will see you on the flip side. Peace. Later, everyone.